Warning disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The story is written so every evening when he returned from work, he'd greet me with a smile and a kiss on the forehead, and we'd talk about our day like high school sweethearts. He had a small circle of coworkers he occasionally talked about, but I had never met them in person. To me, his workplace existed only in stories, until the day I was invited to his company's quarterly party. It was a Friday night, and the event was held in a sleek hotel rooftop lounge. I was excited to finally step into Ryan's professional world. Dressed in a navy blue dress, I held his hand as we entered the venue. The space buzzed with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and office banter that seemed too fast for an outsider to catch. Ryan introduced me to a few colleagues, some warm, some polite, and then there was Sarah. She was elegant, confident, and had a subtle boldness in the way she spoke. Sarah was Ryan's coworker from his team, and it was obvious she was well-liked. Something about her made me slightly uncomfortable, though I couldn't explain why at the time. Later that evening, as Ryan stepped away to take a call, I walked past the women's lounge to touch up my lipstick. That's when I heard it. Sarah's voice, clear as day, laughing with another colleague. And then came the words that stopped me in my tracks. If only his wife knew what kind of man Ryan really is. My heart skipped a beat. She didn't know I was standing nearby. She didn't say it directly to me. But those words pierced through the comfort of 6 years of marriage like a sharp blade. I didn't hear the rest. I couldn't. I stepped away, pretending I hadn't heard anything at all. But inside, I was shaken. Was it just harmless gossip? A joke taken out of context? Or was there something darker behind that smile Sarah gave me earlier? That night, as Ryan drove us home, humming along to the radio, I smiled back at him. But deep inside, I had already started questioning everything I believed about the man I thought I knew. That night should have been a celebration, a chance for me to meet the people Ryan spent most of his days with, to see the professional world he had built for himself. But instead, it marked the beginning of something far more painful than I could have imagined. I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's words. If only his wife knew what kind of man Ryan really is. The words repeated in my mind like a haunting melody, and though I didn't know exactly what she meant, I knew she wasn't joking. Her tone had been sharp, almost smug. My gut told me there was something more. The next morning, I acted like everything was fine. Ryan made me pancakes, as he always did on Saturdays. He kissed my cheek while I sipped coffee, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I couldn't bring myself to ask him about Sarah, not yet. I needed to know more. I needed to be sure I wasn't just being paranoid. Later that afternoon, I scrolled through his Instagram. He wasn't very active online, but a few tagged photos caught my attention. Group selfies from the party. Sarah was in most of them, often standing next to Ryan. She looked a little too comfortable, her hand sometimes grazing his arm, sometimes standing close enough to make it look like they were more than just coworkers. It could have meant nothing. Or it could have meant everything. Over the next few days, I found myself thinking about Sarah constantly. Who is she really? What did she know about Ryan that I didn't? And why would she say something like that behind his back? I tried talking to Ryan casually about her. One evening, while we were having dinner, I said, "That Sarah woman from your office seems interesting." He barely looked up. Sarah? Yeah, she's something. Super sharp, a little dramatic sometimes. Why? Just curious, I said, forcing a smile. You two seem close. Ryan chuckled. Not really. She's friendly with everyone. It's her personality. His response didn't ease my mind, it only made me more suspicious. He was brushing it off too quickly, like he didn't want to discuss it. That night, as he slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling in the dark. My mind was filled with images of Sarah, the smug tone of her voice, and the subtle hints she dropped. Was she telling the truth? Was Ryan hiding something from me? Or was this all just in my head, fueled by a moment of misheard words? One thing was certain, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. Something wasn't right. And I was going to find out what it was. The human mind has a cruel habit. It replays the most painful things on loop. Sarah's words echoed in my head for days, each time digging deeper into my confidence, my trust, and the quiet love I had built with Ryan. If only his wife knew what kind of man Ryan really is. What kind of man was he? The man I knew cooked dinner with me, binge-watched documentaries, made me tea when I had cramps. Was he also a man with secrets? One version of him lay beside me at night, but perhaps there was another that existed between office walls I had never entered. I began to question things I'd never paid attention to before. He started working late more often, always urgent deadlines and client meetings. He would smile and say, "Don't wait up," and I'd force a smile in return, hiding the slow burn of suspicion beneath my skin. One night, he left his phone on the kitchen counter while taking a shower. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but curiosity and fear mixed into something I could no longer suppress. I opened his messages. Most of them were normal. Coworkers discussing meetings, project updates, jokes. But then I found Sarah's name. Their chat wasn't inappropriate. Nothing scandalous. But it was familiar. Too familiar. She had sent him a meme late at night. He had replied with a laughing emoji and a "you always know how to crack me up." A few days earlier, she had asked "rough day," and he had responded, "Yeah, you could say that. Thanks for asking." Again, nothing that screamed affair. But it didn't sit right with me either. Why was she the one checking in when he was upset? Why was she the one getting these vulnerable moments from him? That used to be my role. I locked the phone and walked away before he came out of the shower. My hands were trembling. I didn't know if I was relieved or heartbroken. Nothing concrete, but emotionally it felt like betrayal. The next day, I sat in my car outside his office, watching from across the street. I told myself it was madness, but I couldn't stop. At lunchtime, I saw them come out together, Ryan and Sarah. They walked side by side, laughing, his head slightly tilted toward her like he was genuinely enjoying her company. She touched his arm once, and he didn't move away. That touch told me more than 1,000 texts could. I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. But I knew one thing. Sarah had said what she said on purpose. She wanted me to hear. She wanted to break something. And she had. I wasn't the kind of woman who snooped or doubted easily. But once you hear something that breaks your sense of safety, there's no going back. Trust isn't something you lose all at once. It crumbles slowly, piece by piece, and I was already knee-deep in the ruins. That week, I became someone else entirely, quiet, calculating, observant. I started tracking Ryan's schedule, comparing his words with his actions, noting the small differences that now felt so significant. Meeting ran late, he'd text. But I'd already seen a colleague's Instagram story posted an hour ago, Ryan and a group of coworkers laughing at a bar, drinks in hand. Sarah right next to him. He wasn't cheating, at least not in the physical sense. But emotionally, that line was becoming blurrier every day. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I wanted answers, not denials. I needed facts, not stories. So I started asking around. I reached out to Monica, the wife of one of Ryan's coworkers. We'd met briefly at the office party. She was warm, approachable, and I figured she might offer insight without even knowing it. Over coffee, I casually brought up Sarah. She seems close to a lot of people, I said carefully. Monica raised her eyebrows. You can say that again. She's definitely got her favorites. Ryan included? I asked, trying to sound light. She hesitated for half a second, just a flicker in her expression, but I caught it. I don't want to stir anything, she said slowly, but people have noticed. She's always around him. Some of us thought maybe something was going on, but Ryan never gave off that kind of vibe. He's always been respectful. That should have made me feel better. But it didn't. Because emotional boundaries don't always get crossed with obvious intent. Sometimes they blur when people are too lost or too lonely or too blind to the consequences. That night, I waited until Ryan was asleep before checking his laptop. I knew his password. He trusted me. And for the first time in our marriage, I broke that trust too. His email was clean. So were his documents. But his Teams chat history with Sarah was still accessible. The conversations were intimate. Not romantic, not sexual, but emotionally vulnerable. Late-night exchanges about life, frustrations, even memories from their childhoods. She called him her safe space. He called her easy to talk to. I closed the laptop feeling sick. Sarah had emotionally inserted herself into my marriage like a shadow I hadn't noticed growing behind me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Something was happening. And now I knew for sure. It wasn't just about what Sarah said behind his back. It was about what he let happen right in front of me. By now, I had all the pieces, but I still didn't have peace. I spent the entire weekend turning those messages over in my mind. Each word was a quiet betrayal. Ryan hadn't slept with Sarah. There were no photos, no confessions of love. But he had let her into a place that used to belong only to me, his heart, his mind, his emotions. And for me, that was enough to feel broken. Monday night, after dinner, I finally decided to confront him. My hands were cold, and my voice shook before I even spoke a word. He was sitting on the couch, half distracted by his phone. "Ryan," I said softly, "we need to talk." He looked up concerned. "Everything okay?" I sat down across from him, holding his gaze. "Who is Sarah to you?" "Really?" He blinked, clearly surprised by the directness. "She's a colleague." "I told you that." "I'm not asking what she is on paper," I replied. "I'm asking what she is to you." He frowned. "Emily, where is this coming from?" "I heard what she said at the party. About you. And I've seen the way you talk to her. The way she touches you. The way you text her late at night. I know more than you think." His expression changed, first confusion, then guilt. Not because he had been caught in a lie, but because he knew, deep down, he had crossed a line. "I didn't cheat on you," he said immediately. "Not physically." I swallowed hard. "But emotionally?" He hesitated. That silence told me everything. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he finally said. "It started off innocent. We were working on a big project together, and I guess I started talking to her during stressful days. She listened. She got it. She made me feel understood in a way I haven't felt in a while." The words hit like ice water. "In a while?" I asked, my voice cracking. "And you never thought to talk to me about that?" "I didn't want to hurt you," he said. I didn't realize how far it had gone until I looked at it from the outside. I looked at him, this man I'd shared my life with. The man who once said I was his entire world. And all I could feel now was distance. Like we were two strangers trying to remember how we used to be close. "You didn't protect us," I said quietly. "You let her into a space that was meant to be ours." "I know," he whispered. "I messed up." We sat in silence for what felt like hours. This wasn't a loud, explosive fight. It was something worse, a quiet fracture. The kind you can't always see but you can feel, every minute, every breath, every heartbeat. And I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. After the confrontation, something inside me changed. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was alert. Angry. Determined. I needed to understand why Sarah had made that comment at the party, why she had chosen me as the audience for her cruel little whisper. She could have kept her thoughts private. But she didn't. She wanted me to hear. It wasn't an accident. So I decided to talk to her. Not as Ryan's wife, not as a broken woman, but as someone who deserved the truth. I asked Ryan for her number. He hesitated at first, but eventually, he gave it to me. "Please don't make this worse," he said. Worse? I thought. I didn't make any of this. I texted her a simple message. "Hi Sarah, it's Emily, Ryan's wife. I think we should talk. One-on-one." She replied within minutes. "Sure. Name the place." We met at a coffee shop near her apartment. She arrived in a fitted blazer and designer heels, perfectly composed, as if this were just another business meeting. I wore no makeup, a messy bun, and my eyes were still swollen from crying. "Emily," she said, smiling as she sat down. "This is unexpected." I didn't bother with small talk. "You knew I was standing there at the party. You wanted me to hear what you said." Her smile faded slightly, but she didn't deny it. "I figured if you were smart, you'd put the pieces together," she replied, stirring her coffee casually. "And you did." "Why?" I asked, holding back my trembling voice. "Why would you do that to someone's marriage?" She looked me dead in the eyes. "Because Ryan deserves better." Because he's been unhappy for a long time and won't admit it, not even to himself. I stared at her, stunned. You think you know everything about him, Emily, she continued. But you don't. He's been going through things emotionally. You weren't there for him the way he needed. The audacity of her words burned through me like fire. You manipulated him, I said coldly. You saw a crack in our marriage and tried to make it wider. You were never helping him, you were helping yourself. She leaned back, a smirk tugging at her lips. Maybe. Or maybe I just gave him something you stopped giving him a long time ago, attention. I stood up. I feel sorry for you, I said. You thought breaking something would make you important. But you're just noise. You don't know our history. You don't know our love. She didn't respond. Maybe because she didn't expect me to be that strong. Or maybe because she knew she had lost. I walked out without looking back. Yes, Ryan had made a mistake. A serious one. But Sarah? Sarah had made a choice to insert herself where she didn't belong. And that choice said more about her than it ever would about me. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't know how to look at Ryan. He wasn't the enemy, but he wasn't entirely innocent either. I walked around our home like a ghost. Folding laundry. Making dinner. Watering the plants. All the things I used to do with a sense of love and belonging now felt hollow, mechanical. It wasn't just about Sarah anymore, it was about us. The space between us that had been slowly growing, the gaps we ignored, the signals we missed. Ryan tried. He really did. He apologized again and again. He started coming home early, cooked dinner without being asked, sent me flowers with handwritten notes. But they didn't land the way they used to. Because love, once bruised, doesn't heal overnight. One evening, we sat on the balcony in silence. The city lights blinked around us like distant stars. I could feel him watching me. His hands were shaking slightly as he broke the stillness. Emily, he said, I never stopped loving you. I was stupid. I should have seen what was happening before it got this far. I nodded slowly, not looking at him. You say you love me. But you gave her pieces of you that belonged to me. You shared parts of yourself, your thoughts, your frustrations, your late-night silences, with someone else. And I was right here. I didn't mean to, he said. It just happened. That's what scares me most, I whispered. That it happened so easily. He took my hand. I let him. It still felt familiar, but foreign too. Do you want to stay? I asked him. His eyes welled up. Only if you want me to. I stared into the distance, searching for clarity in the skyline. Did I want him to stay? Part of me did. The part that remembered the years we built together. The laughter. The quiet support. The shared dreams. But another part, one I didn't recognize, was tired. Tired of being the only one holding the line while the other drifted. I had met Sarah. I had seen what she tried to do. And I had shut her down. But the damage wasn't hers to fix. It was ours. And we weren't the same people we were 6 months ago. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote down everything I was feeling. The pain, the confusion, the fear, the lingering love. I didn't write it for him, I wrote it for myself. Because healing doesn't always come from choosing someone else. Sometimes it comes from choosing yourself. And I needed time to do that. So I told Ryan I needed space. Not forever. But for now. Not because I didn't love him. But because I loved myself enough to know I deserved to be sure. 3 weeks. That's how long I stayed away. I moved into my sister's guest room. I didn't tell many people why, I just said I needed space. Truthfully, I didn't even know what I was looking for. Clarity? Peace? Maybe even the strength to walk away, if that's what it came to. Ryan called every few days. Never to pressure me, only to say he missed me, that he was thinking of me, that he was still here. I appreciated it. But I didn't respond much. I needed those weeks to hear my own voice again. In the quiet, I finally heard it. Love doesn't just mean staying. Sometimes it means leaving, at least for a little while, so the broken pieces can settle before you try to rebuild them. What Ryan had done wasn't unforgivable, but it wasn't insignificant either. And neither was I. I spent time reflecting on what I had contributed to. I wasn't to blame for his emotional drift, but I could admit that somewhere along the line, we had both stopped checking in with each other. Life got busy. Routine replaced romance. We stopped asking, "Are you okay? Are we okay?" Sometimes emotional distance doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in quietly, gently, until the person sitting across the dinner table feels a little less familiar. One morning, I got up early, packed my things, and went back home. Ryan opened the door, stunned. "You're here," he said softly, like he wasn't sure I was real. I nodded. "I need to talk." We sat down, the weight of silence pressing between us. "I'm not here to forget what happened," I began. "And I'm not here because I've decided everything is fine." He waited, not interrupting. "I'm here because I believe what we still have, is worth trying for. But things have to change. We need therapy. We need communication. And above all, we need to earn back what we both lost, trust." He nodded slowly, emotion brimming in his eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes." "Then we start over," I said. Not from scratch, but from honesty. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There was no dramatic kiss in the rain, no swelling background music. Just two flawed people, sitting in the quiet aftermath of something real, choosing to rebuild. Weeks turned into months. Therapy sessions were hard. Conversations were raw. But we kept showing up for each other and for ourselves. And slowly, the space between us began to close. Sarah? She faded from our story, just as quickly as she had entered it. A catalyst for pain, but also for truth. In the end, I wasn't torn anymore. Because I had faced the pain. I had chosen not to look away. And most importantly, I had chosen me first. Only then could I choose us again. C. 456.